Okay, so I think we've all had that moment where we think, what's my purpose?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing here?
It's a big question.
Right. So in this deep dive, we are going to talk about a podcast episode that tackles this in a really, really approachable way.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you like about it?
You know, it's funny because I think people always think about purpose as this big, grand thing.
Yeah, like this huge aha moment.
Totally. But this episode is really about finding purpose in the smaller, like, everyday things that you do.
I like how they said that you don't have to go on some mountaintop retreat
Exactly.
unless you want to.
Right,
If
exactly.
that's your purpose, go for it.
Yeah, totally.
But they really boil it down to, like, how do we find purpose just in the day-to-day?
Exactly, yeah. And I thought it was interesting how they focused on aligning our actions with our values.
Yeah, so recognizing the things that you already do and, like, figuring out why you do them.
Right, like they talked about a parent helping their kid with homework.
Oh, yeah, that was a really good example. Yeah.
Like, think about it. You're sitting there at the kitchen table. Maybe you're a little frustrated, but then you realize, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This isn't about the math problem. This is about helping my kid, like supporting them, passing along some knowledge, you know?
Absolutely.
And maybe even like having a moment of connection with them.
Cool.
Like, that's where the purpose comes in.
Exactly, yeah. And it's interesting how that idea of connecting actually ties into this concept we'll talk about later
Oh, yeah.
called ikigai.
Which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
But the point is that even something that seems really mundane, like helping with homework, can actually be infused with purpose when you connect it to something bigger, like your values.
Absolutely.
So I really like how the episode laid out 3 questions.
Yeah, they're really good questions.
I thought they were really useful for kind of like starting to think up this, you know, like where do I even begin?
Totally.
So the first question is like, what do you care about deeply?
Yeah, what are your passions?
Yeah, like what issues really get you fired up?
Yeah, what are you, like, really into?
Yeah, and I love how the second question kind of builds on that. Like, it's what are you naturally good at?
Yeah, what are those things that just kind of come easily to you?
Yeah, like maybe it's writing, maybe it's problem solving, maybe it's making people laugh, whatever it is, right?
Totally.
But it's often something that you're drawn to and like actually enjoy doing.
It's like your strengths.
Right.
Yeah, and that really gets at the heart of ikigai, which we'll talk about more later. But it's about recognizing your unique skills and talents.
Right. Okay, and then the third question is like, okay, how can you use those first 2 things, what you care about and what you're good at? How can you use that to either serve others or like create some value in the world?
Yeah, that's the big question, right?
Yeah, and that one, it's like, that one's tough.
Yeah.
But I think the episode does a good job of kind of like breaking it down and making it feel doable.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think one of the things that people might be thinking right now is, well, that's great, but I'm stuck in a job I hate. Yeah, I know,
I don't have time for all this self-discovery stuff.
Exactly.
And the episode actually talks about that.
Okay, good, because I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so they talk about how it's not always about like quitting your job and doing something totally different right away.
I was going to say.
It's more about like finding small ways to integrate the things you care about and are good at into your current routine.
Okay, that makes sense.
Even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
I can see how that would be more manageable.
Exactly. And they gave some good examples like mentoring a colleague or taking an online class in something you're interested in.
I like a good idea.
Or even just making an effort to be kind to everyone you interact with, you know?
Yeah, just bringing that intentionality into your day.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not about making these huge changes. It's about bringing purpose into those little pockets of time outside of work.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, I like that.
I thought that was really helpful. Yeah, but what about those days when even that feels impossible? Like you're just completely overwhelmed and exhausted.
Yeah, I feel like.
Like you just can't even, I don't know.
Well, the episode talks about that too, and they emphasize focusing on just one area of your life.
Okay.
And starting with just one small action.
Okay, I like that. Keep it simple.
Yeah, it could be something as simple as calling a friend you haven't talked to in a while.
Oh, yeah.
Or spending 5 minutes writing down things you're grateful for.
Oh, I love that they talked about gratitude.
Yeah, it's so important.
It's so easy to just get caught up in all the negative stuff, but taking a moment to like appreciate the good things, even just like the little tiny things, can really shift your perspective.
Absolutely.
Okay, but what if you don't even know what you care about or what you're good at?
That's a good question, and the episode actually introduces this really interesting exercise
Ooh.
where they suggest visualizing your ideal day.
Oh, like a perfect day.
Yeah, like imagine a day with no limitations.
Ooh, I like
Yeah.
that.
Where you can do anything you want, Be anyone you want, go anywhere you want.
Okay, that sounds pretty dreamy.
It is.
But how does that actually help you find purpose in your real life?
So it's not about, like, escaping reality.
Yeah.
It's about uncovering those hidden desires and priorities
Okay.
that you might not even be aware of.
Interesting.
By, like, imagining yourself in that ideal scenario,
Okay.
you start to identify the things that truly bring you joy and fulfillment.
So it's like giving yourself permission to dream
Exactly.
and then seeing what parts of that dream you can actually bring into your everyday life.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm kind of getting this now.
I think it's a really powerful exercise.
Yeah, and it's not about having all the answers right away. It's about being open to exploring and experimenting
Absolutely.
and seeing what works for you.
Totally. And it's important to remember that purpose isn't static.
What do you mean?
It evolves as you grow and change.
So, like, what mattered to me 5 years ago might be totally different now.
Exactly. And that's okay.
Okay, that's good to know.
It's about staying flexible and adaptable.
So we're always kind of figuring it out as we go.
Totally.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, like it's not this pressure to, like, have it all figured out right now.
No, it's a journey.
Yeah, it's a journey.
I like that.
Me too.
It's a good way to think about it.
Okay, so we've talked about aligning our actions with our values. We've talked about those 3 key questions.
Yeah,
And we've talked about visualizing our ideal day.
that's a good start.
Yeah, I think so too.
I feel like we're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much more to uncover.
There is.
But I think this is a good foundation.
Absolutely.
So in the next part, we'll dive even deeper into some of these concepts and explore some other ideas from the episode.
Sounds good to me.
All right, stay tuned.
Can't wait. Yeah, it's like that internal compass is always kind of like recalibrating as we go through life.
Oh, I like that. It's always adjusting.
Yeah, and as we,
Yeah.
grow and change.
It makes me think of, like, you're not just finding the right path. You're staying true to yourself on whatever path you're on.
Exactly.
And, one thing I thought was really interesting about this episode is how they talked about how purpose isn't just about what's happening in your own head.
Oh, yeah, it's not all internal. Right.
It's also about, like, how we engage with the world around us,
Totally.
Like, it's really interconnected.
Yeah, our purpose often emerges from our interactions with other people, our community, the environment.
Yeah, it's like we find purpose by contributing to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly.
So it's not just about, like, this self-discovery thing.
It's about giving back.
Yeah, it's about how do we use what we've discovered to make a difference.
I like that.
Yeah, like even if you haven't figured out your big grand purpose, like capital P purpose,
Right.
you can still find meaning in those everyday moments of like connection and service.
Absolutely, like just doing something for someone else.
Yeah. And it's about recognizing that everyone has something unique to offer.
Yeah, we all have something.
And that our actions, however small, they kind of create these ripple effects.
You do.
It makes me think of that quote. I can't remember who said it, but it's like, the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away.
Oh, I like that.
And that really ties into what we were talking about earlier with Ikigai,
Totally.
Like finding that sweet spot where your passion and your skills meet what the world needs.
Yeah, what the world needs.
And this episode also kind of encourages us to think about, like, how can we use our unique gifts to make a positive impact?
Exactly.
So it sounds like Ikigai isn't just this abstract concept. It's like a practical framework for figuring out how to live a more purposeful life.
I think so.
And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It can be as simple as, like, finding joy in your morning coffee routine.
Yeah, or maybe volunteering at a local soup kitchen.
Right.
Yeah.
Like using your skills to help others.
Exactly, and I'm starting to see how all these ideas kind of weave together,
Yeah. Yeah, it's not about chasing some external definition of success.
It's about finding those moments of alignment.
Right, like where what you're doing matches who you are.
Exactly.
And that can be through our work, our relationships, or even just like those small everyday actions.
It's about tuning into our own internal compass.
And trusting that it'll guide us to a life that feels good,
Yeah, authentic and meaningful.
But we don't have to do it alone.
That's so important, right?
Yeah, like sometimes just connecting with another person.
Yeah, or sharing our experiences.
Or just supporting each other, that can make all the difference.
Totally. It's about creating that sense of community.
And recognizing that we're all in this together.
We are.
And, sometimes I think the biggest sense of purpose comes from just, like, being present and appreciating those everyday moments.
Oh, absolutely. Like that's where the magic is, right?
Yeah, like taking time to slow down and savor those little things that we often overlook.
Exactly, like that first sip of coffee in the morning.
Or like a hug from a loved one. Those things are important.
They are.
But isn't there a risk of like settling for the ordinary when we could be doing extraordinary things?
That's a great question, and I think it's about finding that balance between embracing the present moment and still striving for growth and expansion.
So it's not about choosing one or the other.
Right, it's about recognizing that purpose can be found in both the ordinary and the extraordinary.
Okay, so it's like finding that sweet spot between contentment and ambition
Exactly.
and allowing ourselves to evolve and change as we go.
Yeah, what might have felt fulfilling 5 years ago might not resonate with us today.
And that's okay.
That's okay, it's a sign of growth.
It's like we're always kind of refining our definition of purpose as we learn new things and have new experiences.
Yeah, we're always learning.
But how do we know if we're on the right track? Like, are there any signs we should be looking for?
Well, the episode talked about that feeling of alignment we were discussing earlier.
Oh, right, right.
When your actions are in sync with your values, you tend to feel a sense of peace, satisfaction, even joy.
It's like everything just clicks into place.
Exactly.
It's like that feeling of flow you get when you're completely engrossed in something you love.
Totally, whether it's painting, writing, or even having a deep conversation with a friend.
It's like being in the zone.
Exactly.
And it's not like every day is going to be filled with bliss and ease. You know,
Oh, for sure, there will be challenges.
there will be obstacles.
Absolutely.
But even in those tough moments, there's this underlying sense of purpose that helps you get through it.
It's like a driving force.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like knowing that even though the path might be winding and unpredictable, you're ultimately headed in the right direction.
And trusting that the journey itself is where the real magic is.
Okay, so we've talked about finding purpose in those everyday moments.
Yes.
We've talked about that feeling of alignment
Mm-hmm.
and trusting the journey.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah, it is, but I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here. And I'm curious to hear what our listeners are thinking.
Me too.
So in the next part, we'll wrap things up and share some final thoughts.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot in this deep dive. Like little moments of purpose, ikigai. It really seems like there's not just one right way to think about your purpose in life. Did any one thing really stick with you from this episode?
I think, what was most impactful was just how much simpler this episode makes the idea of purpose seem.
Yeah, like it's not this big scary thing.
Right. It's not like you're searching for this, like, magical endpoint.
Yeah, it's not about finding the right answer,
It's about constantly growing and changing and figuring it out as you go.
which honestly can still feel a little overwhelming sometimes.
Oh,
Like, where do I even start?
Right. Well, I think going back to those 3 questions is a good place to start.
Oh, yeah, those are good ones.
What do you care about? What are you good at? And how can you use those things to, either help other people or create something valuable?
Yeah, those are really good questions, but sometimes I feel like the answers are so deep down inside.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Like it's going to take forever to figure it out.
Yeah, like it's buried treasure or something.
Right.
I think that's where that visualizing exercise can be really helpful.
That's right. Imagining your perfect day.
Yeah, give yourself permission to dream a little.
Dream big.
Exactly.
But I'm still not quite sure how picturing my ideal day actually helps me find more purpose in my regular life.
Well, it's not about copying that dream exactly.
Okay.
It's more about figuring out what parts of that dream really get you excited.
Oh.
Like what things bring you joy? Who are the people you want to be around? What kind of environment do you feel most comfortable in?
It's like you're looking for clues.
Exactly, like a treasure hunt.
Yeah, a purpose treasure hunt.
There you go.
So I have to look through those daydreams and pick out the pieces that I could try to fit into my everyday life.
That's the idea, and you might be surprised by what you find.
Oh, for sure.
Like maybe it's something really small, like taking a walk in nature every day.
Or making time to call a friend.
Exactly.
Yeah, even little things can make a big difference.
Absolutely. And that's something the episode emphasizes, like, don't underestimate those small actions.
Because they can make a difference.
Exactly. Yeah.
So basically, it's not about having it all figured out right away. It's about being curious and trying new things.
Yeah, and being open to the process.
And trusting that the journey will lead you where you're supposed to be.
Exactly. And it's important to remember, this isn't a race. It's okay to take your time.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you get off track, that's okay too.
Oh, yeah, they're going to be detours.
Absolutely. That's just part of life.
And it's okay to change your mind about things along the way.
Yeah, for sure. We're always changing and evolving.
So I guess, if I had to sum up everything we've talked about,
Yeah,
it seems like purpose isn't something you just find, it's something you create.
I like that.
Like through the choices you make, the things you do, how you interact with the world around you.
Beautifully said.
So, if you're listening to this and feeling a little lost or unsure about your purpose,
Yeah.
just remember, start where you are.
Yeah, start small.
Use what you have.
You don't have to have all the answers.
Right, and trust that the path will unfold in front of you as you go.
That's the journey.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe you'll even find your own ikigai along the way.
That would be awesome.
All right, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Bye!